What if everything you've learned about the origins of humanity is just the authorized version? As this phrase echoes, powerful images emerge: ancient pyramids, ruins covered in the sand of time, enigmatic formations on Mars and the surface of the Moon, all interspersed with NASA records with corrupted files, distorted videos and audio cuts at the exact moment when something crucial would be revealed. There's something they don't want you to see, something that was buried, hidden, or simply omitted. NASA, considered the ultimate source of knowledge about the cosmos, also holds the universe's greatest secrets. Visual evidence, images never shown to the public, and structures with artificial symmetry located outside the Earth raise the hypothesis that advanced civilizations existed long before ours, in places that supposedly never harbored life. This isn't science fiction. These are real records, taken from space missions, analyzed by experts who risked their careers to reveal what's behind the curtain. In this video, you will have access to content never explained by conventional science, evidence of technologies impossible at the time, and connections between ancient constructions and patterns found in extraterrestrial regions. Every minute, what seemed like a conspiracy theory starts to make sense. The puzzle is before you. Everything that has been hidden, manipulated, or silenced is about to come to light. So stop and think. Why do so many official NASA images have glitches just when something strange appears? Why do structures with perfect angles, symmetry, and geometric patterns appear in places where, according to traditional science, there has never even been life? Now look closely at these images. What do you see? A random piece of rock or evidence of forgotten architecture, left by a civilization that would challenge everything you learned in school? It's all there, but not told, silenced, edited, and each fragment revealed in this video will take you deeper into this labyrinth of forbidden discoveries. Here we are not going to repeat what you have already heard 1,000 times. Let's expose what was hidden. We will show you details that escape the distracted eye, but that make perfect sense when connected. And it's at this point that the video becomes yours too. Comment below what you see in these images. Tell me if any of these structures remind you of something you know. Share your vision. There are thousands of people watching right now, looking for the same answers, and your opinion could be the missing piece to this puzzle, because those who observe carefully begin to see what no one has ever had the courage to show. Now, look carefully at this image that will appear on the screen. Observe the shape, the shadow, the sharpness of each line. This doesn't look like a simple rock formation. It looks like a monument, a structure built, shaped, perhaps left there by someone or by something. This photo was recorded on Mars by one of the probes sent by NASA itself, and for a few brief moments it was available in the public database. But soon after, it disappeared. The page has been updated, the link was wrong, and the file off. All that remained were records made by users who were attentive and downloaded before the content disappeared. And it wasn't the first time, nor will it be the last. These images, which show symmetrical reliefs, towers with perfect proportions, vertical columns with identical measurements, are one of the biggest annoyances for those who control what can or cannot be shown. This is because they are visually uncomfortable. They defy everything official science says about Mars and the Moon. Rather than accidental, these formations appear carefully planned. How to explain this? Why aren't these structures analyzed in depth in NASA press conferences, in official documentaries, or in classrooms? Some of these images show reliefs that resemble temples, gigantic steps, staircases submerged in Martian sand, as well as shadows cast by towers that could never have been sculpted by wind or natural erosion. In some craters on the Moon, it is possible to see contours that form straight lines, true quadrants embedded in the lunar soil, detail with exact symmetry. This is not an optical illusion, and when these images are leaked, what happens? They are quickly classified as exaggerated interpretations or lens defects, and when that's not enough, they are simply removed from public databases. And if you're the type who doesn't accept ready-made truths, subscribe to the channel right now. What comes next will take you even deeper into this mystery. The connection between ancient ruins and space artifacts is about to be revealed, and it doesn't stop there. There are a series of records known as the Lost Apollo files. There are photos, videos, and audio transmissions from lunar missions that, curiously, disappeared without clear explanation. In old reports, many original, Tapes were said to have been accidentally overwritten or damaged by age. Now tell me, how is it possible that one of humanity's greatest achievements, the landing on the moon, has records lost by accident? And why, among the few fragments that remain, do we find sections with bizarre glitches, abrupt cuts and muted transmissions at exactly the moments when the astronauts seem to be observing something unusual? There are also reports about secret lunar missions, those that were never broadcast to the public, but that appear in documents leaked years later. In these records, astronauts describe strange formations on the surface of the moon, as if they were observing ruins or abandoned installations. One of these transcripts even mentioned the term artificial structures, followed by an order to cut off communication. All of this is available, yes, but buried among thousands of pages, hidden between the technical and the bureaucratic, as if it were impossible to connect the dots. But we are connecting. If this part made you cringe, then leave a like now, and that's where you come in. What do you see in these images? Do you believe that all this is the work of chance? Or do you think we are past time to face the possibility that we are not, and perhaps never were, alone? Your opinion matters. Each person who watches this content with a critical eye becomes part of the investigation. And now I want to know, which of these structures caught your attention the most? Write it down in the comments. It could be a word like tower, pyramid, or even phrases like "this is unnatural" or "NASA is hiding something." These interactions not only help the channel grow, they also create a community of people who want to go beyond the obvious. If you want to follow every revelation that is yet to come, then like this video. It shows that you have an open mind. And now, we have reached a point where the line between science, myth, and reality begins to dissolve. The images we've shown so far, symmetrical structures, impossible monuments, artificial reliefs captured on Mars, the Moon, and even Saturn's moons like Enceladus, are just the surface of the mystery. The real enigma begins when we cross this spatial evidence with ancient historical accounts that, until today, are considered just legends. But perhaps they are not. Maybe everything is interconnected. Perhaps what ancient civilizations knew and left recorded in stones, maps, and monuments is the missing key to understanding what is really happening outside Earth. Ancient people like the Sumerians, for example, spoke openly about the Anunnaki, gods who came from the sky, beings with advanced knowledge of astronomy, engineering, and genetics. On tablets more than 5,000 years old, there are detailed reports about flying ships, suspended cities, and even manipulation of human DNA. This doesn't sound like pure fiction, sounds like ancestral memory. And when we put these descriptions side by side with recent images of symmetrical formations on Martian soil, lunar craters that look like buried cities, and structures that follow design patterns similar to those of pyramids on Earth, the question is no longer, is it true? And it becomes, why isn't anyone talking about this? The theory of pre-flood civilizations, such as the legendary Atlantis, also gains a new perspective. Plato described Atlantis as a highly advanced society that suddenly disappeared. To this day, many believe it was just a philosophical metaphor. But what if he was describing something real, a technological civilization, perhaps of hybrid origin, with knowledge so far beyond ours that its works have been mistaken for miracles or gods? What's more, what if this civilization hadn't disappeared, but migrated? There are researchers who argue that the survivors of Atlantis would have left Earth, reaching other planets or moons, where traces of their existence may still remain. Submerged ruins found in Japan, megalithic formations under the ocean, perfect astronomical alignments in places like Stonehenge, Teotihuacan, Baalbek. All of this starts to make more sense when we place the universe as the true stage for these stories. Lemuria, another civilization mentioned in ancient texts, supposedly had a direct connection with stellar entities. Their temples, described as structures that channeled cosmic energy, would have been destroyed or displaced during planetary cataclysms. And here again, NASA comes in, with images that show marks on the lunar soil in circular shapes, as if huge power generators had operated there in ancient times. The connection between these ancient civilizations and constructions that defy current logic is increasingly evident. The Pyramid of Giza, for example, is perfectly aligned with Orion's belt. The Angkor Wat Temple in Cambodia accurately maps entire constellations. Whoever built these wonders had astronomical, mathematical, and architectural knowledge, far beyond what official history admits. Now stop and reflect. Were these civilizations just looking at the sky, or were they following ancient maps that connected them to an extraterrestrial past? Some of these structures feature tool marks that do not even exist today. Millimetric cuts in stones with a density that is almost impossible to carve without cutting-edge technology. Walls fit together with atomic precision, like in Pumapunku, Bolivia. And we're not just talking about Earth. On Mars, there are formations with similar features, as if the same knowledge, the same construction method, had been used here and there. There are theories, however bold they may seem, that claim that Earth was just one of the colonies inhabited by these beings, that the Anunnaki, or another cosmic civilization before ours, sowed knowledge in different parts of the solar system, and that the so-called impossible ruins that NASA avoids commenting on would be the last witnesses of this interplanetary past. The question remains, why hide it? Why manipulate images, discredit scholars, and bury classified files for decades? Because if this is all true, the entire narrative we know about human history needs to be rewritten. We are not the beginning, we are the restart. And the remains of these lost civilizations aren't just beneath our feet, they're scattered across the cosmos waiting to be discovered, or rather, rediscovered. Maybe the moon isn't just a dead satellite. Maybe Mars isn't just a dry planet. Perhaps what we call ancient myths are in fact legitimate historical records from a time when humanity, or something very similar to it, was already exploring the stars. And you may be wondering, why is this evidence never covered in the news? Why are so many researchers ridiculed? The answer is simple and frightening: control of the narrative. Showing that there are ancient civilizations outside Earth is admitting that our science still knows almost nothing about the true history of existence. It is admitting that we are just another link in a much larger chain of cosmic evolution. Hence the silence, hence the manipulation, hence the fear of revealing. But we are here to connect the dots, to show what is between the lines of the images, in the forgotten data, in the old words that now make more sense than ever. And that's why, if you've gotten to this point in the video, it's because you feel like there's something more, something that needs to be unearthed. And you can be sure we are just getting started. And if you are the type of person who questions what is behind the official versions, subscribe to the channel. Let's go even deeper, because the revelations that come next could completely change your perception of the universe. Oh, and comment below, what do you think of these links between the Anunnaki, Atlantis, and Mars? Write sentences like, "This was hidden from us," "The ruins are real," or even, "The gods came from the stars." Choose the one that best represents you, or write your own version. Your voice matters. Your comment fuels this collective search for truth. Over the years, several scientists, space engineers, and even former NASA employees decided to break their silence, and what they revealed goes far beyond speculation. We're not talking about random theorists on the internet, but names who have been inside the agency's facilities, with direct access to confidential documents, raw satellite images, and transmissions not released to the public. One of these names is that of Ken Johnston, former manager of photographic data at the NASA laboratory in Houston, who publicly stated that was instructed to destroy original negatives of the Apollo missions, negatives that showed strange structures on the moon supposedly built. Johnston refused to obey this order, and after years of trying to speak out, he was dropped from the program and labeled a conspiracist. Another emblematic case is that of Donna Hare, a former NASA contract employee who worked in the agency's photographic sector and declared that she saw technicians retouching satellite images to remove flying objects and formations that looked like artificial constructions. In a recorded interview, she states that the work of erasing these anomalies was part of the routine of image editors within the agency itself. A co-worker, when pressed by her to tell more, said fearfully, "You don't want to get involved in this. People disappear for a lot less." And it doesn't stop there. Engineer Ralph Kennedy Johnston, different from the aforementioned Ken, who worked on Boeing projects linked to NASA, revealed that he saw images of towers and geometric structures on lunar soil that were never made public. Interestingly, his name disappeared from some official records, and his testimony was treated as unverifiable. But there are recordings, there are copies, and there are other professionals who have begun to corroborate. these same stories. William Rutledge, an alleged former astronaut involved in a secret Apollo 20 mission, officially non-existent, published videos on the internet showing a gigantic alien spacecraft crashed on the far side of the moon. The videos, although highly controversial, show technical details consistent with equipment of the time and structures that never appeared in official NASA archives. The scariest, after releasing this content, Rutledge simply disappeared. His account has been closed, and no current records confirm his whereabouts. There are also cases involving death, mysterious causes, domestic accidents, or supposed suicides among former employees who shortly before passing away showed interest in revealing secrets about what they saw on Mars and the Moon. One of the most talked about cases is that of Carl Wolf, a former US Air Force technician who, during a public conference, declared that he had seen images of artificial structures on the hidden side of the Moon. Months after his interview went viral, Wolf was killed by a car while riding his bike. The official report indicates an accident, but many saw this death as a disturbing coincidence. These people had nothing to gain from these statements. In fact, they lost status, jobs, and in some cases even their own security. Still, they decided to speak. This leads us to an inevitable question. Was what they saw so serious as to justify all this censorship, persecution, and fear? What level of truth is being hidden from the public? What is the price of keeping silent about discoveries that could completely change everything we know about our position in the universe? Comment below which of these names you already knew. Write sentences like, "The truth is being silenced," "The evidence is being erased," or simply, "Ken Johnston was right." Choose one or create your version. Your comment keeps this truth alive and is part of this collective investigation. If there's a missing piece in the great puzzle of human history, it's probably buried not beneath the earth but in the stars, or at least in the archives we've never been fully accessed. There is a hypothesis that, although treated with disdain by academic institutions, gains strength with each new discovery, that humanity did not begin exactly here on this planet, or that our current civilization is just one among several that have already flourished and collapsed throughout ancient cycles, lost in time. This idea, far from being absurd, is supported by logic-defying megalithic evidence, structures that do not fit the technological knowledge of the eras in which they were supposedly built. Take Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, for example, a temple dating back to at least 12,000 years ago, constructed of stone columns with carved details that would require tools and planning far beyond what any Stone Age society should have been capable of, and yet it exists. Or the case of the stones of Baalbek in Lebanon, blocks, weighing hundreds of tons stacked with surgical precision, forming a base that to this day we cannot explain how it was transported or placed in position. Now connect this with the perfect alignments these structures have with stars and constellations. It's no coincidence, it's a project, it's intention. The Giza Pyramid, for example, is aligned with Orion's belt so exactly that even today, with all the technological advances, it would be a challenge to replicate this construction with the same astronomical orientation criteria. And most intriguing, it, along with other pyramids around the world, appears to be part of a global pattern, an energy map spread across the planet. But what kind of civilization would have had the capacity to create this kind of planetary connection thousands of years ago? Traditional history tells us that humanity began with simple societies that evolved slowly. But the stones tell another story. Many alternative scholars believe that there was one or more planetary cataclysms, great extinctions, floods, cosmic impacts, that destroyed entire civilizations, forcing humanity to start over. There were few survivors left who preserved part of the knowledge in monuments, legends, and mythologies, hence the tales of gods, giants, and submerged cities. But what if these gods were just much more advanced humans, coming from a time when Earth was a center of cosmic knowledge? And more, what if, upon realizing the imminence of a catastrophe, these people not only registered their legacy here, but also fled? What if the colonization of Mars, for example, is not a future goal but a distant memory of a forgotten past? Some evidence points to this. Similar structures found on Mars, such as the famous Face of Cydonia or the pyramids in the Elysium Planitia region, share proportions and shapes with terrestrial monuments. Of course, NASA claims they are natural formations, But the repetition, geometry, and location of these formations make it very difficult to support coincidence as an explanation. What if older human or humanoid civilizations, upon seeing the imminent collapse of the Earth, transferred their existence to other celestial bodies? This would explain the myths of ascension to the heavens, fire ships, winged chariots, everything reinterpreted over the centuries as religion, when in fact it could be pure technology. Another important clue is anomalous artifacts, objects found in geological layers that should not contain any signs of civilization, such as fossilized screws, perfect metallic spheres, and even tool marks in rocks that are more than 2 billion years old. Orthodox science ignores, ridicules, or tries to hide these discoveries. But with each artifact out of place, the hypothesis grows stronger. Perhaps we are not the first. Perhaps we are living in the echo of a past that is much older, much more advanced, and much more connected to the cosmos than we were led to believe. And all of this starts to make sense when we connect the dots. Megalithic ruins, cosmic alignments, impossible artifacts, and the total absence of convincing explanations from scientific authorities. It's as if there was a coordinated effort to keep this part of the story in the dark. After all, accepting that there were human civilizations before recorded history, and that these civilizations may have come, or gone, to other planets, is accepting that everything we know about who we are, where we came from, and where we are going needs to be rewritten. And this, for many institutions, is simply unacceptable. What if suddenly the world knew, with definitive proof, that advanced civilizations existed before ours, mastered technology we don't even understand yet, and perhaps originated outside of Earth? What would happen to the structure of society as we know it? Think about it. This revelation would not just be scientific or historical, it would be cultural, spiritual, economic, and geopolitical. It would be an implosion of everything we were taught as absolute truth. Secular and religious institutions would lose their authority over the creation narrative. Governments would need to admit that they hid essential information for decades. And the worst thing for them, people would start to question everything. Imagine the religious impacts, for example. Most religions base their structure on the idea that humanity was created here, in a unique, special way, by a divine entity. If we discovered that there were other civilizations more advanced than ours that perhaps interfered with our own genetic development, as theories about the Anunnaki suggest, this would provoke a crisis of faith in millions of people. Churches would be forced to re-evaluate centuries of doctrine, and where there is faith, there is power. And where there is power, there is fear of losing it. In the political and geopolitical field, the shock would be even more radical. The dominance of nations over resources, technology, and territory is largely based on control of the narrative. Admitting that a previous civilization mastered anti-gravity, the manipulation of free energy, or even interstellar travel would make obsolete all the large research centers that today consume billions in public funds. This would put the world's population before an uncomfortable question: why do we continue to pay so much for limited energy, outdated transport, and slow communications, if perhaps all of this was overcome millennia ago? What's more, if these technologies really existed and were rediscovered, who controls them now? Are they being kept secret by governments, corporations, or hidden alliances that operate out of the public eye? The answer to that question could redistribute the global balance of power. It's no wonder that whenever a leaked image shows an unusual structure on the Moon or Mars, it quickly disappears. Misinformation is not accidental. It's a policy, a deliberate strategy of maintaining ignorance as a form of domination. Official science is also not exempt. Much of academic prestige is directly linked to the current system. Researchers who try to break this cycle are often ridiculed, discredited, or simply silenced. And the reason is simple. Admitting that we are wrong from the beginning means recognizing that thousands of books, theses, and studies need to be rewritten. And that is expensive, in reputation, in financing, in power. Now think about yourself. What would happen if, tomorrow, it was revealed that there are gigantic ruins on Mars with inscriptions similar to those of ancient Mayan temples, or that there is an underground hexagonal structure on the Moon, mapped since the 70s, but kept under military secrecy? Would this change your way of seeing the universe? Would it change the way you see yourself? This is why this truth continues to be treated as fiction, not because there is no evidence, but because admitting its existence would open a deep wound in the global control structure. It is more convenient, more profitable, and more functional to keep the population distracted, occupied with disposable theories, while the real story remains locked in steel safes and digital files protected by passwords that we will never know. And if you want to continue investigating these hidden layers of reality with me, subscribe to the channel right now. What comes next will show you how far this manipulation can go. And of course, comment below what you think would happen if NASA announced today that it found ancient ruins on another planet. Write sentences like, "The world is not ready for the truth," "The official story is a hoax," or "Control is maintained by ignorance." These words matter. They fuel the debate, make this content go further, and show that you're awake to what's really at stake. What if everything that is being shown in space missions is not, in fact, a discovery, but a rediscovery? What if the astronauts who cross the vacuum of space are not venturing into the unknown, but merely returning to places that were once inhabited, by us or by something very similar to us? The structures, the alignments, the hidden records, the silenced voices, none of this seems to be the result of chance. With each new image that NASA releases with suspicious flaws, blurs, or cuts, the truth screams even louder behind the distortions. We are facing something much bigger than just science. We are facing the real possibility that our history has been erased, and now little by little it is beginning to emerge again. What if the true mission of these space agencies is not to reveal the universe to humanity, but to control what humanity can and cannot remember about it? The phrase that should be echoing in your mind right now is simple, powerful, and dangerous for anyone who wants to remain silent. They are not exploring, they are revisiting. If you believe that NASA is hiding evidence of lost civilizations, comment below. The truth is buried in space. It doesn't come out yet. The video that is appearing on your screen now is the next step in opening your mind. Get ready, because what you're about to see could change everything.